So I've just joined Twitter recently, and one of the topics that I follow is Gundam, obviously. Also, follow me here on Twitter. And I've seen a debate come up amongst fans, and the debate is, should the original Mobile Suit Gundam series be remade? And the fans seem pretty split on this topic, so I thought I would give my opinion on this. So if you've watched my Gundam videos, then you probably picked up that I'm all in favour of a remake of the original series. I love the original Mobile Suit Gundam series. It's probably my favourite. It's either that or Zeta Gundam. Maybe Gundam Wing just for the nostalgia. It's those top three anyway. And after thinking about it for a while, I've sort of split my thoughts into the sort of pros and cons of them doing a remake. So let's start with the pros. Number one, obviously, better quality animation and more consistent animation. Because let's face it, if you watch the original Mobile Suit Gundam, its animation hasn't aged gracefully. And there are a lot of inconsistencies, especially in terms of proportion with the Gundam itself, even going from frame to frame sometimes, but especially from scene to scene. Like the Gundam's face will just elongate and his torso will look weird. We've all seen the screenshots of the inconsistency, and this would fix that. But also what this would do is it would remove a barrier for new potential fans. Because in my friends group, there's me and one other person that are big Gundam fans, and we want the rest of our friends to get into it, but the animation is a hurdle for them. Like, you explain it to them and they go, oh wow, yeah, sounds like a pretty good space opera story. It's like, it is, and it's got giant robots as well, but the story's, you know, you could replace, I've always said, you could replace the mechs in this show with tanks or jet fighters, and it'd still be amazing, because it's the actual story and the characters and the conflict and the themes that are what drive the show forward and like make it great. So they like, oh yeah, I'll watch it, and then they get to the first episode and they're like, whoa, what is this? This looks awful. I'm just sitting there like, well, it was 1979. I'm like, I can't watch this. I can't watch this at all. And I'm like, oh, please watch it. I'm like, nah, I can't. I just can't. And that just annoys me, because it's like, I can't force them to watch it. I know there are some people out there that have different standards for how far back they can go and watch movies. Like, I know some people that won't watch anything from 1980 backwards, with the exception of maybe Star Wars. And I'm just like, why won't you look at anything, like, why won't you watch anything from the 60s or 70s? And they're just like, because it looks awful, like, oh, the special effects are bad, and just the acting's bad, and blah blah blah, and they just can't go over that barrier. And if they did a remake, that would remove that barrier for people, and people would finally be able to see what we've all been loving for years, which is this cast of characters and this space story, which is just amazing. That would be better for the franchise. More fans means more people consuming the products, you know, the model kits, and yeah, it would just be much better for the franchise. And another potential pro it could incorporate the changes that were made in the movies. Now, I only watched the compilation movies for the first time 3 years ago. Was it 3 years ago when I got the Blu-ray? And I loved them. They were absolutely amazing. I loved pretty much all the changes they made, story structure wise. There were some things that they cut out that I wish they didn't cut out. Specifically, I know it's stupid looking, but I love the Zachrello. Like, I just love how goofy it is. It just encapsulates the sort of like Xeon mobile armor. Let's just throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. Like, that's what the Zachrello was. They're like, oh, we could give it, you know, knives for arms. And it's like, nah, this won't work. I love that. They cut out the Gyan fight as well, like the whole thing with Makuve. They cut that out, which I'm like, why? The Gyan is such a cool mobile suit design. I love it. It's just an elegant knight that duels. Love that. So keep that stuff. But everything else that they changed was great. Hayato swapping out the gun tank for a gun cannon. That makes sense, because the gun tank is laughably obsolete at that point. So yeah, get another gun cannon in. So I think that would be great. So those are the pros that I could think of. But here are the potential cons. 1. It could actually look awful and ruin the charm of the animation. Now, what I mean by that is, Mobile Suit Gundam has a certain charm to it. Like, because it was drawn in the 70s and some of it in the 80s as well, it just has this 70s and 80s look to the characters. Like, they don't have the big pointy anime eyes, you know, they're still quite rounded. And they even keep that style in the modern interpretations of the Universal Century. Like, if you watch Gundam Unicorn and specifically Gundam The Origin, they still look like their 70s designs. Like, they're clearly, that's those characters. They haven't modern animated them up, if you get me. But depending on who's helming this, they could change that. But I doubt they would. Like, I think Sunrise are smart enough to know, right, this is Mobile Suit Gundam, this is what the fans expect from Mobile Suit Gundam, this is what fans expect the series to look like, and they have a sort of, like, they know the DNA of the show, and they know what they can and can't change. That is a con, but I don't think they would do that. Another con is they could change too much and just ruin everything. Like, they could go, right, let's redesign that, let's cut that entirely, let's cut that character entirely, let's add this brand new character. Like, that could potentially happen as well, but again, I don't think it would. I think they know what we expect from it. And Sunrise know to handle the original Gundam with care. They know that, right, this is the thing that has literally made our animation studio. This is the thing that this has been our cash cow for 4 decades now. We know we need to look after this. And if they were to do this, they know, right, we need to knock this out of the park. We need to make it great. So even if they made it like, how Unicorn came out at first, how it was just 10 episodes, do it that way. Like, see if it's not a weekly show, I won't mind. See if it's like, oh, you're going to get 8 episodes every 8 months or so. I'm willing to wait for that. See if I see the extra work and effort put into the animation. I would rather do that. I'd rather wait for like 3-4 years for the full series to be done and then have this quality 43 episode thing in front of me. I would rather that rather than just be like, oh, we need to release an episode once every week to match our competitors, right? Just fucking fling it out there and we'll fix it later on the DVD. It's like, no. They know what they're doing. They know to take their time. They know people will wait for Gundam. So I think we don't need to worry too much about that. But one thing I'm worried about, and this one has the most potential to be true, is they could change the music. And I don't want them to, because I love the music. I love the sort of orchestral, cheesy 70s pop, space opera-esque music that the original series has. I love all the background music. I love the sort of character themes. I love the battle themes. I love the opening and end credits of the original series. I especially love the end credits theme of the original series. It's just so melancholy and somber. But I also love the opening and closing songs of the compilation movies, especially the end song of movie 2. I can't remember what it's called right now, but you know the one I'm talking about. It's great. I would hope that they keep that in. And I don't want them to change it to sort of modern, J-pop, J-rock sort of music. It's like, nah, that doesn't fit the theme and tone of Mobile Suit Gundam. Like, keep it as it is. Don't touch it. And that's really all I can think of, like, the cons right now. There's probably more I can't think of, and there's probably some that you can think of, in which case, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Should they remake it? Or should they just leave it alone? And what are your fears if they do remake it? Like, what is one thing you don't want them to change? Or what is one thing that I maybe haven't thought of that they could fuck up and just ruin the series? But also another question, where should the cut-off be? Let's say we're going to remake the original 1979 Mobile Suit Gundam. We're going to remake that. But do we remake Zeta Gundam from 1985? Because I personally, I don't think they should. I think Zeta Gundam's animation holds up to this day, and I think it's beautiful. I think it's great. I think anything from Zeta Gundam onwards shouldn't really be touched. I think it's all great. Well, maybe not all. Most of it still holds up to today's standards, and it looks absolutely amazing. Like, I wouldn't touch Zeta Gundam or Double Zeta Gundam, any of the movies. Maybe Victory Gundam. Victory Gundam is when it started to look a little cheap to me. Like, there's just something about Victory Gundam, it just looks very bland and cheap. I don't know if that's just the designs themselves, but something about that series just looked very cheap to me. G Gundam looked good, and then Gundam Wing looked good, and then onwards they all pretty much looked good. Like, animation quality style, I'm not talking about design. But yeah, where should the cut-off be? Because are we going to have this conversation in 10 years and go, we should probably remake Zeta Gundam by now? Or should there be a limit of like, no, Zeta Gundam's fine? Let me know what you think. But that's just my thoughts on this debate. We'll see how this develops, and I'm interested to read your thoughts and see if there's something that I haven't thought of. But yeah, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I shall see you guys next time. Bye bye.